Moreover, reaching the state of delegation on one project frees up some time for me to pursue delegation on other projects. As I achieve delegation on more and more projects, more and more discretionary time is released to spend with my boss, peers, staff, and myself. Once delegation is reached, staying there is easy compared with the job of getting there. The state of delegation is analogous to an airplane at cruise altitude on automatic pilot, where the pilot only monitors the flight and intervenes occasionally, if at all. But those interventions are minuscule in comparison with the energy and work the pilot extends in getting the plane away from the gate, down the runway, off the ground, and up to the cruising altitude. How does one attain this delightful state of delegation? The one-minute manager explained that, in its broadest sense, coaching is the term commonly used to signify the things managers do with their people to get projects up to cruise altitude, where they can and will be handled mostly by staff members with minimal intervention by the manager. Remember, the purpose of coaching is to get into position to delegate. What exactly has to happen before one is in a position to delegate? Managers must not, indeed cannot, delegate until they are reasonably confident that 1. The project is on the right track, and 2. Their people can successfully handle the project on their own. Managers who gave their people full project responsibility and authority without such confidence are not delegating, they are abdicating responsibility. Obviously, some projects can be delegated at the outset because it is sufficiently clear to the manager in the beginning how they should be handled and that staff members can successfully handle them. However, most endeavours with the dimensions and complexities of a project cannot be delegated at the outset because often, in the beginning of a project, neither the manager nor his or her staff member has sufficient understanding of the problems, goals, options, timing, and ramifications to know even how to proceed, much less know whether that person can handle the project successfully. Thus, most projects require a period of coaching before the boss has sufficient confidence to enable him or her to delegate responsibility. Obviously, staff members must play a large role in building their boss's confidence to the point where the boss can delegate. In the first place, managers cannot delegate until their people have somehow demonstrated that they can handle the project. Moreover, since people usually know more about their jobs than their bosses know, in many cases they should be persuading their bosses how the project should be handled. This makes people just as responsible for coaching and delegation as their bosses are. The best way I know to explain the process of coaching is to describe a recent experience with one of my people, Gordon. As you'll recall, he was my monkey factory. This experience is one of my proudest accomplishments as a manager because I think it shows how much I and my people have improved in the past 2 years. First, I will briefly describe what happened, then we can analyse it. Some time ago, it became apparent to me that one of our products might be having some technical problems in some of our customer locations. Before I got around to taking any action on the matter, Gordon, who was in charge of the product, stopped by my office one day and updated me on the situation. Only then did I realise that this had the potential of becoming a very costly and embarrassing problem. He had already prepared his recommendation for dealing with the problem, so we made a date to meet the next day to discuss it. Gordon conducted the meeting. His proposed solution consisted of a 1-page synopsis followed by 18 pages of supporting information in case it was needed. He read and then we discussed his synopsis, which contained a clear, brief description of the situation, 3 possible options for resolving it, the pros and cons of each option, and the option he recommended we adopt. As it turned out, no one was sure if the source of the problem was our company's product or the other products connected with it. So Gordon's solution included first a study to identify the nature and scope of the problem, and then corrective measures later, if necessary, to fix the problem. It was soon obvious that Gordon had covered every detail of the technical part of the situation. I was thankful he did, because my technical skills have necessarily diminished since I have been a manager. He had determined what should be done, when, by whom, and how much it should cost. He specified all the resources he would need, budget, authority, and manpower, and the help he would need from me in arranging them. His technical preparations left nothing to be desired. However, there was a snag. Gordon had not fully considered how his proposal solution might be received by our salespeople, the customers, and our higher management people. I explained that I was especially concerned about the reactions of 2 of our vice presidents, whose support would be critical to this endeavour, and I asked him what he thought we should do. Gordon convinced me he could persuade the vice presidents to support the project, so I asked him to meet with them to inform them of his plans and solicit their advice, and then report back to me before moving ahead on the project. When we met again, he reported that despite his best efforts, one of the VPs still had serious reservations. He recommended that I speak to the VP. Okay, I told Gordon, I will do that, but you're going with me to watch what I do and help me as much as possible. 2 meetings with the VP and some minor changes to our plans resolved the problem and eliminated the last obstacle to my willingness to delegate the remainder of the project to Gordon, which I did. Then we made a date for a month afterward to go over the results of his study before we took any further steps. At that point, he took control of the project for a month, during which he handled dozens and dozens of monkeys on his own. Now let's analyze that scenario and look at the many things that helped me get into the position to delegate, and let's pay special attention to who did those things. 1. I cannot delegate until my anxieties allow it. Gordon helped lower my anxieties by convincing me he could handle most aspects of the situation on his own. His thorough preparation and his skillful presentation, plus his past record of success on similar projects, were the main convincers. However, some residual anxieties caused me to retain control for a time. I maintained control by giving Gordon assignments, monkeys, which were ensured at level 1, recommend, then act. On assignments he could not handle alone, I worked the monkey with him, not for him, so I could do some teaching in the process. 2. I can delegate only if I am reasonably sure my people know what is to be done. But before they can know what to do, someone has to figure out what to do. If I figure it out, then I must tell them what to do, which is autocratic management. So Gordon figured out what to do himself and then persuaded me he was right. That saved me a lot of time, and he was much more committed to his own ideas than any I might think up. 3. It would be foolish to delegate to someone without reasonable assurance that he or she can get sufficient resources, time, information, money, people, assistance, and authority to do the work. But who could know better than Gordon what resources he needed? That's why he took the initiative to determine what these resources were. Moreover, on his own, Gordon arranged for as many of the resources as possible, asking for my help in arranging only those things he could not get for himself. 4. I cannot turn control of any project over to anyone until I am confident that the cost and timing and quantity and quality of the project will be acceptable. To leave those items open-ended would be abdicating my responsibility as a manager. But in order to agree on standards of performance, we must first have some, which means that someone must produce them. The person who should produce them is the person who is in the best position to know what the standard should be. Gordon was, he did, and he convinced me to approve them. 5. It is clear that the more committed my people are to their project, the greater the odds of their project success. Other things being equal, the more commitment my people show, the more comfortable I will be in delegating to them. Gordon took care of his own commitment. The time and effort he invested in his proposal increased his commitment. The fact that it was his proposal increased his commitment, as did his personal pride in doing a job well. Gordon's implicit promise to me to do the work sealed his commitment. Because his commitment was internally generated, I did not have to resort to requests or contracts or coercion to gain his commitment. This is not an exhaustive list of things that have to happen before delegation can occur, but it illustrates the process. Regarding Gordon, I'm sure you noticed that I maintained control of the project until I was confident I could delegate control to him, but he initiated and carried out most of the next moves that got us to the point of delegation. That was as it should be. Since the purpose of coaching is to get my people to the point where they can succeed on their own, it would defeat the purpose if I was to do anything, even in the coaching process, that they could do themselves. The coaching process usually consists of staff members carrying out a series of assignments, while managers control and direct the process until they are confident that people can assume control for an extended period on their own. As the assignments are carried out, both the manager and his or her people gain time and information they can use to sharpen their thinking about where the project should be heading. As they both become more confident that the project is on the right track, and as the boss's confidence in the person's competence grows, the boss gradually delegates more and more project responsibility. The assignments should be boss-initiated only to the extent the staff member cannot initiate them. Usually, the first assignments are for the subordinate to develop and propose a game plan. If necessary, the boss redirects the plan until it is acceptable to him or her. Then, if the parties are still not in a position to delegate, the next assignments are for the subordinate to make some next moves on the project itself, with the boss guiding and controlling the process until delegation can occur. You can see that from that, usually, delegation is not just an act. It is usually a state of affairs that exists only after sufficient coaching enables the boss to delegate responsibility. Of course, not all coaching experiences are as easy as the one just described, but they tend to get easier after managers and their people go through the process a few times, because everyone learns to anticipate and complement the other, much like a passer and receiver on a football team. After sufficient practice, a quarterback can throw the ball to a spot on the field before the receiver ever turns toward that spot, because he knows exactly where the receiver will be going and exactly when he will arrive. Furthermore, each can make the other a better player. With a great catch, the receiver can make a poor pass successful, and with a great pass, the thrower can make the receiver successful. Likewise with managers and their people. Once they learn to work together, they can achieve the point where people conceive and implement most of their work, while the boss merely ratifies what is being done.